What is up, everybody? Jim Cyril and Tanya Klein here from Coverage Inc., the leader in screenplay analysis, development, and editing services since 2002. How you doing today, Tanya?
I am very well. How about yourself?
I'm good, and I notice there's a third person here with us.
Yes, there is.
Who's with us today?
John, who are you?
Who am I? Jon Fitzgerald from Cause Pictures.
Welcome, John. Great to see you. Glad to have you. Of course, we met you just it was like a week ago, right? At Film Quest.
At Film Quest, which, by the way, sidebar, amazing film festival. So if you guys are genre writers, check out Film Quest.
And it was funny when we Tanya and I did a couple of panels, a couple of labs at Film Quest, as did you, John. And the true story, when we were looking through the schedule for what we wanted to do in the 3 days that we had at Film Quest, the one and only thing that I circled and sent to Tanya was, oh, we got to check out this guy's lab. This looks dope. So, and we did. And it turned out to be a 2 day thing. I thought it was just a 1 day thing because the schedule was a little funky. But anyway, glad we did. Great to meet you. A lot of great information you were doing there. So John, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you do.
Sure. Well, I think my biggest claim to fame is I'm a co-founder of Slam Dance, which is obviously a film festival that's been going for quite a while now. We just had their 30th year, and like Sundance, they moved out of Park City. I think Sundance has one more year there, but that was kind of what launched me, if you will, into the film festival space. After doing Slam Dance for 3 years, I took over the AFI Film Festival and did that for 3 years. After that, dabbled in the internet, before the .com bubble burst, and ran programming for ifilm.com, which some of you older folks may remember. So I've been in the film festival space for a number of years and doing a lot of consulting, helping filmmakers navigate this crazy evolving film festival circuit. I also do a lot of consulting in the distribution side, helping filmmakers find the right home for their films. So that's kind of the film festival consulting space. And then my other world is I wrote a book called Filmmaking for Change, as I realized that I was gravitating towards what I call social impact films in my film festival work. And then I kind of moved back into filmmaking for a spell. I did half a dozen documentaries. Right, so that's the third version of my story.
We'll link to your book in the description, as well as all the other things you've got going on. And you were involved with AFI as well. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So after doing Slam Dance 95, I was a co-founder, and then took over 96 and 97, and then AFI offered me the job as the festival director. And it was nice because I actually had an office and a salary, because Slam Dance didn't pay a whole lot.
A salary?
In this business?
Yeah, it was kind of a crazy cool surprise to actually have a regular paycheck. So that was a lot of fun. And for me, what was great about it is I came at just the right time. They were really looking to revamp the festival. They needed some fresh blood, and it was only primarily showing international titles, and it was very long. There weren't any awards. There was really no buzz factor going on there. And so for me, it was just a blank canvas to come in there and start an American Indies section, and then create awards. I brought on advisory committee members like Steven Soderbergh and folks from the studios, folks from the different guilds. So it just, frankly, it wasn't rocket science. A lot of things I did, I think, would have been obvious, but it was great because she gave me a clean slate to work with, and it was a lot of fun. We came in at the right time because it was part of the whole Hollywood Renaissance. They had just redone The Egyptian. Hollywood Island was being done. So they were spending a ton of money there, and I had a great opportunity to bring some great films. We won the foreign language Oscar 3 years in a row.
Wow.
The U.S. premiere of Life is Beautiful, Demands Chinese. That was one of the highlights of that run.
Nice.
Roberto Benigni being himself and
Yeah.
just putting on a show for everybody.
Yeah,
That's so
no,
cool.
that is awesome. So let's in general talk about film festivals because that is your area of expertise and why this is, so important and actually making the right moves is so important because I mean, Jim and I certainly have like horror stories of film festivals. Like, for example, we one of our movies back in 2019, 2020, we were all set to premiere at a major European festival to have our world premiere, huge, huge festival, and they, slotted us for a Saturday night slot, yay! And the person advising us said, "Oh no, go for the Friday afternoon slot, just because it might be easier getting people in there to want to buy the movie." And same movie we had an offer from a fantastic, huge, huge, huge festival for our U.S. premiere, but had already given up our U.S. premiere to another smaller festival, which really didn't do us any good. And so, basically, what I'm saying is, film festivals and your film festival circuit, once you've completed your movie as an independent filmmaker, can make you or break you, and you gotta know what moves to make. So, talk a little bit about that since that is your area of expertise.
Well, let me just
Well,
jump in real quick and explain when you say we got some advice, we had a film festival consultant who we paid, and which is something that you do as well, John. So I just wanted to clarify that. Okay.
yeah, and just to add additional clarification, I was not your guy
Exactly.
because I would not have given you that advice. Well, it's funny, you mentioned this whole festival strategy thing, and I think we talked a little bit about this before. I know you know him. Justin Giddings and I got together after I was doing this for 20 years, and said, I really want to do a film festival course, and it was during COVID, and it was the perfect time to do a virtual course. So we got together and created Film Festival Mastery, and we've been doing free webinars for literally 5 years now, and we do them typically once a quarter. And then if folks need more help, then they can reach out to Justin or I, and we can customize a package for them. But the resources that we offer in this are pretty spectacular, and I can say that because again, I've been doing this so long. I know what the hot buttons are for filmmakers, and the premiere status and some of the ideas you just mentioned are definitely up there. But Justin and I are doing our final one on November 19th. I know we can put a link in the chat for that too. But
Absolutely.
what we decided to do, because we could talk about this for hours, is essentially we created 6 modules, and each of these modules is literally a video course with 3 subsets in each module. It's close to 4 hours of information. But what we do is we have this free webinar where we talk about 3 keys. One being strategy, that you have to have a custom strategy based on your goals and your film. Because a lot of filmmakers want to play the festival circuits, they could sell their movie to A24 or Neon, right?
Right.
There's a lot of filmmakers that are looking to just use them as an opportunity for a calling card or to network with other filmmakers. Some want to win Oscar qualifying festivals if it's a short film. So
Right.
there's lots of different categories and reasons that filmmakers are looking to play the circuit. And I think what we try and do is help people zero in on their goals, and then you can create a custom strategy based on that. So the first key is that, and then the second is to talk a little about radar. This is another, you talk about horror stories, Tanya. This is a horror story that a lot of filmmakers are going through now, which is that they're spending tons of money. Most filmmakers average around $1,000 total in submission fees for their run.
Yeah.
And frankly, a lot of them are complaining that they can verify that some of their films haven't even been seen. That's a big problem. So we spent a whole section on a module in the course and during this webinar where we talk about how to get on the radar and some tips and tricks and things that are really important. And then the third thing, which is often overlooked, unfortunately, is how to maximize your participation once you're there. And so those are the 3 keys that we talk about at this course. And we've had over 1,000 filmmakers have taken the course in the last few years, and the webinar itself has been seen by more than 5,000, I think.
Wow, amazing. I mean, with film festivals, of course, it's an overwhelming thing. I mean, you go on, let's say, Film Freeway, and there. I mean, how many film festivals are there in the
They
United
say
States?
there are over 10,000. I don't believe it. I think there's probably, I don't know, at least 2,000 of them are either scams or no longer happening.
So when we host this writing promo, it's sort of like a contest. It's not really a contest, a writing promotion that we do called Get Rep Now.
Mm.
And when we use Film Freeway for that at all as well. Sorry. And when we search for festivals and contests that allow for screenplay submissions, which is certainly not all the festivals. There's actually, only a certain percentage that do. It comes up around 800 to 1,200 every year. That's just for screenplay ones. So, I mean, what is it, like one out of every five or six that has a screenplay segment to it? So, yeah, it's a lot of festivals.
Yeah, it's a lot. And I think quite honestly, that's one of the reasons why, consultants have kind of popped up. I mean, when I started doing this literally 25 plus years ago, you typed in festival consultant in Google and I was the only one.
Mhm.
And now I don't even know if I'm coming up first. A lot of these folks are younger than I am and are, doing the whole SEO thing. And there's a lot of people out there doing it. But, the one thing that I will say that I think some filmmakers I've worked with appreciate is that there are folks that have done some programming for film festivals. Some have even worked for me. But very few of these consultants can say that they've made films as a filmmaker and run acquisitions for distribution company and run as many festivals as I have. So I'm not going to say I'm the best. I will just say that I think I have the most experience and the most well-rounded experience.
Yeah. So what are some of the biggest mistakes you see filmmakers make? Let's say now they have a produced indie film and now they're staring at Film Freeway and they're like, oh, what now?
Well, I think the biggest is that Justin and I talk about this idea of spray and pray. I think that there are a number of lists that have come up over the years where it's, top 50 this, top 20 that. And I think that people take those lists and just assume that they're all 100% accurate and that they all apply to their movie. And so they do this spray and pray thing where they just kind of spray the film out to as many of these festivals as they can. They pray that they get into all of them. And they don't really think about which festivals can really help their film, number one. Number two, they're not really thinking about the importance of their premiere. And sometimes filmmakers just get so excited that they submit to a bunch of festivals in their region. It could be LA, it could be New York, could be Texas, could be Florida. There's 20 plus festivals in all these major cities.
Mhm.
And so what ends up happening is sometimes they get invited to playing one of these festivals and they accept the invitation and then they realize, oh, well, if I play this smaller festival, then I can't play Tribeca, or I play this smaller festival in LA, then I can't play AFI.
Yes.
So it's important to kind of understand that there is a difference in a lot of these festivals, and you want to not, stab yourself
Yeah.
because you ultimately made the biggest mistake, and now you can't play the festival can really do you some good.
Yeah.
Speaking as people who've done exactly that, I think coming into the when you've got a film and you want to put it on the festival circuit, I think that there's just a lack of knowledge in general among filmmakers unless you've done this before as to the hierarchy of film festivals and that you can't just play all the film festivals that accept you. I mean, I guess you could, but a lot of them won't want you. They want regional premieres or international premieres or whatever the premiere status is. And this all has to factor into the calculations, which is one reason why a festival consultant, I think, can be so important. But before I ask you to comment on that, there's something I read a couple of years ago, which was it blew my mind. And it was one of the major, like, top 10 film festivals. We've all heard of it. that said, like the programmer, the head programmer said in an interview, he was bragging that like 14% of their content came from over the transom submissions. And I was like, wait, what? Where are all the rest coming from? And of course, now we know it's like, agents and people in the business who are greasing the wheels and calling up their friends at the film festival and saying, you're going to play my movie, right? You're going to, and so that was the percentage, 14% that is open to just the Joe Schmoes out there sending their film in and paying your $75 through Film Freeway and hopefully now Hike, which we'll get to in a minute. So, yeah, that kind of blew my mind, John. What's your take on all that?
I think it, just as it's important for filmmakers to understand their goals and what they're trying to achieve, it's also important to understand from a festival standpoint, because I do that too, right? I do festival consulting for festivals, helping them do a blueprint, maximize their, foundation that they're trying to establish, right? So they can survive. It's a tough game running a film festival. They don't make much money. And of course, everybody hears about, the Torontos and Sundances of the world,
Mhm.
but there's thousands of other festivals that just barely scrape by, And I think that some festivals that are in bigger cities that have communities that have been around for, the festival themselves have been around for 20, 25, 30 years. They have an obligation to their community to serve them, right? So they want to play the films that they think their community wants to see. Now, the audience in Palm Springs is not necessarily the same audience you're going to find in New York,
Mhm.
right? Or Seattle. So how do these festivals program to their communities? And I think what I learned pretty quickly at AFI was that I had to have a pretty good combination of curated film sections to appease different types of audiences. And a lot of times, quite honestly, Sundance had over 17,000 submissions. A lot of the middle range festivals are having between 5 and 10,000. That's a lot. And the truth is, there's a lot of crappy films getting made, no offense to filmmakers that are putting all their blood, sweat, and tears into it. But the truth is, it's not easy making a good film. And I think what's important to a festival to sell tickets, they have to decide what kind of movies they want to show and what they're going to be able to sell tickets to. Right. So what happens is a lot of these kind of top tier, second tier festivals is they're looking at the other festivals to see what's doing well. And then you're actively soliciting. When I was in the director's chair at AFI, I showed films from Sundance and Venice and Seattle. It's like you would go to these other festivals and you'd see what's working there and what you thought would work. You'd invite them. So those aren't submissions, right? You're actively soliciting these films. So it is a combination, but there are some festivals that pride themselves in making most of the selections from the entries, and that's fine if you can sell tickets, right? Because think of it from a filmmaker standpoint. If I go to a festival in Sedona and they're playing 4 films at the same time, do they have an audience to sustain that? Well, they certainly didn't 20 years ago when I went to visit them. Now they're doing great. But if I'm a filmmaker and I'm flying out to a festival, I'd like there to be an audience there, right? So it's on the film festivals to make sure that they're inviting the right number of films for the audience capacity that they can handle. And that's how you have a good experience. And like you were talking about Film Quest, this is one of the top genre festivals in the world. And Jonathan did a great job at programming. I saw 3 or 4 amazing films there. And frankly, it's not my number one genre. It's not my, target necessarily, but I really enjoyed the films I saw there. And he did a great job. But the other thing that's great is that he only had one theater playing the films.
Yeah.
So he packed the house every time.
Yeah.
And that's great for the filmmakers. That's great for the audience experience. But there are some festivals that try and show more films. So they have multiple venues, but they don't have enough audience yet. So all that to say, I think it's important that people realize that the festival has an obligation too, to their community in addition to, the filmmakers. But let me just go back to one of the things you said before that I think is a pitfall, that you asked this question earlier. There are a couple things that emerging filmmakers don't really know. And that is that the two most important things for a film after it's been made, we won't dive into the importance of screenplay because you already know that. But let's say the film is already made now, but you need to have a great poster and you need to have a great trailer. And there's a lot of filmmakers out there that assume that their editors are great trailer makers, which is most often not the case. It's why there are companies that get paid to make trailers. And then they think that because they have a Keynote software or a Canva account that they can go in and make their own posters. And I get the idea of wearing multiple hats and you got to save money, but there's a lot of opportunities out there, whether it's Fiverr, whether it's designers coming out of graduate school, whatever it is, there's lots of opportunities to pay people to do what they're trained to do and not feel like some of those creative things should fall on your lap, because those are important things. And those are in fact what filmmakers use to get on the radar. Or it's what they use to attract attention, when they're in a carousel on Amazon.
It's the first thing people are going to see about your movie, generally speaking, is the poster. Or if you're browsing YouTube, maybe you'll see a trailer. If those don't fly.
Yeah. Getting back to something a bit more fundamental, when should a filmmaker start thinking about their film festival strategy? Because I guess once the movie is already completed, it might be a little bit late because you want to be ready. And then I guess it also depends on when your movie is going to be ready, because there are certain festivals that take applications in this time period, other festivals take applications in that time period. So what is the practical process for a filmmaker?
Well, I mean, the good news is that there are enough strong festivals now in every season that I know everybody tries to make their film based on the Sundance deadlines, and then they get the harsh reality that they're not going to get in there. But the truth is, there are great festivals all year long, every quarter, every season. So, the sooner you know when your film is going to be done and you can start planning your festival strategy, the better off you'll be. If nothing else, it helps you map out your timelines, and it also helps you budget.
Yeah.
What a lot of first time and even second time filmmakers forget is that there are submission deadlines and there are fees assessed with those deadlines, right? So if you make that early deadline, it might be $50, but if you're procrastinating or you're entering the late deadline, it might be $100,
right,
or more. That's a $50 difference. And if you apply it at 50 festivals, you do the math, it starts to add up. So I always encourage filmmakers to apply as early as possible. And so it does help to be planning your strategy while you're in post-production, for example, so that I can ask the question, okay, what's your targeted completion date? And they say, oh, it's February 10th. Okay, great. So you're not going to be making any submissions until after that. And so you can prepare that strategy based on deadlines coming up. And another question that may not seem obvious is it okay to submit at these late deadlines and spend the extra money? And is there anything else I should know? And the answer is yes, you should know that films are invited throughout the year. So if you procrastinate and you wait till the end, the final deadline, you're essentially competing with all the other procrastinators out there for less slots.
Yeah, right.
No time is too early. I talk to filmmakers that are still in production, and that's great. And the worst problem that I find, or I should say, I feel sorry for, is when I get a call from a filmmaker who says, okay, so I've submitted to 50 festivals, haven't heard back from any yet. I just heard about you, and can you help? And so obviously I watch their film, I look at the list, and typically I'll find that they submit to Cannes and Sundance and Toronto, and it's all the top tier. And what a lot of filmmakers don't realize is that there are a lot of really good second and third tier festivals that can help you achieve your goals, that are very credible. I can't tell you how many press kits I see of filmmakers send me that has 10 or 15 laurels on it, and they're festivals I've never even heard of. Well, if I haven't heard of them, chances are the head of acquisitions at Fox Searchlight hasn't heard of him either, right?
Right.
So how good is that going to do you? So plan your run and think about the credible festivals, and let the rest take care of itself.
So basically what I'm hearing is it kind of works like college admissions. So you have your super colleges that the Ivy Leagues that you might be gunning for, but you should have your safety schools as well. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, I typically recommend that folks submit in waves. You kind of hit the first 3 or 4 that are your kind of your A-list targets if you feel like you need to check that box. I mean, I think the stats from Sundance these days is less than 0.5% get in, and most people you talk to will tell you that if it didn't come out of a lab, or you're not an alumni, or it's not being rep by CAA or UTA, I mean, it's a really, really tough nut. So submit to a few if you feel like you have to do some top tier, but then think about the second tier, and then think about the third tier, because there's some great third tier festivals that can help you check all those boxes with your goals. They're going to be easier for you to get into. And you can also, if you don't just do a wave of 50 at once, if you find you're not getting any of the first tier or any of the second tier, then you stop submitting to those, and you start leaning into the third tier.
Yeah.
And you're saving money, and you kind of know what you have. And I have a couple clients that frankly didn't get into any of the first or second tier, but got into a bunch of third tier, and then even started going to like the fourth and fifth tier. And so these aren't credible in a way that they're not going to move the needle with the major distributors. The laurels aren't going to mean a whole lot. But look, if they're striking distance from where you are, and you can get there, and they have audiences. And I've gotten some photos from folks, sent me some photos from on the red carpet. They had a great time at some of these little tiny festivals that can't really help them a lot, but they met another 20, 30 people and had a good time. So I think it depends again on your goals.
This is something we advise writers about, regarding screenplay contests and festivals that have a screenplay competition as well. And oftentimes it's not necessarily about winning. It's about who you meet and who you might wind up making a relationship with that you can work with in the future. The people you meet now 3 years later could be your team on your next movie.
Absolutely. As long as you go to festivals that have strong hospitality, and there's going to be people there, and that the festival is proactively arranging brunches and dinners and happy hours and receptions. I mean, that's an important part of it.
Yeah, and I think let's talk about that, because that's another thing filmmakers have to budget for, because it's not going to do them any good to get into a film festival and then not attend.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah, as long as that festival is something that again will help you in one of those ways. It doesn't do you any good to show up at the festival and sit in your hotel room. Like you have to be proactive, right? In engaging. But I do think there are a number. I used to work with a festival in Naples, Florida, and it's a smallish festival. They don't show a ton of movies, but they had great parties, and they had a motorhome as the hospitality suite. And whether it was 30 or 40 or 50 filmmakers that were kind of around at any given time, there was just great camaraderie, and they had a great time. And the audiences, I mean, there was an older set there, but they packed the theater with good audiences that cared and asked great questions. And the filmmakers met folks that they continue to talk to.
Right on.
Yeah, so for most filmmakers, I guess, number one thing on the list will be, of course, to find distribution for their movie and to hopefully make their money or part of their money back. So what should they think about? What should they come prepared with?
Well, I think, what I tell filmmakers, I assume you're talking about feature filmmakers, is you want to be able to understand who it is you're meeting. You want to be prepared to have conversations about what your goals are for this film. If you do have a movie that has a legitimate shot at securing distribution from somebody that can actually acquire the title, that's a great thing. But there, for the most part, unless you're in that top 10%, you're going to be one of those titles that is good enough to secure distribution, and by distribution it might mean gravitas, and a slot on Tubi and right. Zumo and iTunes and Amazon, but probably not Netflix and HBO. Yeah. But the important thing is you're meeting people and you're finding opportunities for your film. But equally important, I think, is always to be ready to talk about what's next. Mm-hmm. And that's something a lot of filmmakers aren't preparing enough for, which is, do you have another script? Do you have another series? What is it that you want to do next? Because you need to be able to capitalize on that momentum. And even if that film isn't great or polished, if you demonstrate that you have something, and what could you do if you had a little more money and a little more time? You want to be able to say, yeah, I've got a great script and here's the summary and I've got a deck and I'm going to shoot it for $3 million next year. Like, you want to represent that you've done your homework and you want to keep advancing your career.
That is so important. I mean, it's the same thing we always tell writers when they go meet managers. Have more than one polished script, have a lot of ideas, have scripts, have, know where you're going, know who you are.
People want to be in business with creative types that are idea machines, that are dynamic, that always have things going. And, look, we all get depressed from rejection. It happens all the time as creatives, as filmmakers, as writers, whatever. Yet the people who are successful are the ones who can, kind of just like shrug it off, or at least pretend to, and just keep moving forward. If this one's dead, then go to this one. If that one's not happening, then okay, well, let's go over here. Just always keep the thing moving. That's what representatives want to see. So this would actually be a good time to break it in half so we can talk about Hike and all that other stuff coming up in part 2. So come on back for part 2, folks, and we'll talk to Jon about this new venture that he's going to be a part of called Hike, which is very exciting, as well as the new film market that he has co-founded with FilmQuest that is going to be insane.
Jon, where can people find you if they want to sign up for your upcoming free webinar?
Yeah, I think that the easiest place to find me is at causepictures.com. I'll put it here in the chat. causepictures.com.
And we'll put it in the...
Yeah, you can put it in
there. We are, okay.
That's the best place. And there's a link there for the webinar that we're doing next week. Film Festival Mastery is the name of the webinar. And yeah, my site has information. You can click there, and I do complimentary consultations, and just try and help filmmakers wherever they are.
Jon, I really wish we knew you 5-6 years ago when we were just starting this whole process with To Your Last Death. It would have saved us a lot of time and a lot of money.
And heartache.
Yeah, but next time. All right, folks, keep it tuned. Part two coming up shortly. Thank you.